Well, my shop is empty. I'm gonna do a little remodeling in here. So this shop was here when we bought this property, and it's been a good shop for the past 2-3 years. But it's time to upgrade this thing and fix some things. For example, I've got a light switch out there. That's the light switch that controls inside. So all the electrical is kind of sketchy. All of the wires, pretty much, there's a piece of wire running there. They've all been chewed by either rats or squirrels. That corner over there is about 4 inches higher than down here. And this here is about 4 inches higher than down there. The reason, so you see there's like concrete underneath the bottom. What happened was when we bought this place, this wall had a gap under the bottom. It was a 4-inch gap all the way across. So basically what they did was they framed up this wall and they screwed it to these, what are these, 6x6s, these posts. So the wall was fastened to that post and fastened to that post down there, 2 foot on center, and it was basically left to sag. So the middle here of this wall was basically touching the concrete, and the ends were coming up and hooking into these posts. So my dad came in and helped me, and we took a bunch of brick pavers and concrete, and we jacked up the walls, because also the roof rests directly on these walls. So the roof was also between these posts, the roof was dipping down and the floor was, or the bottom of the wall was sagging. So we came through and put this, we shored them up all the way around so that they didn't sag anymore. But really what needed to happen was this wall needed to be on the slab to begin with. I don't know why they didn't do that. And then also another consideration with this shop is the power situation. So this is the box that feeds the whole shop. And when we had the house built, I told the builder I wanted to be able to run a welder out here. I wanted to be able to run an AC, and I wanted to be able to run a clothes dryer. I figure it might have laundry or something out here. So I came to check on this job. They had trenched it from the house to the shop. They fed this box with 14 gauge wire. So they ran, it was on a 30 amp breaker up at the house. They attached 14 gauge wire to the 30 amp breaker, ran it 130 feet down here to the shop, and plugged it in right here to this sub panel. And I called the builder and I was like, I'm no electrician, but I don't think that's gonna work. So they came back out and they put, I don't know what it was, I think they put 8 gauge wire is what's in there now. Which is still not enough to handle a welder or anything. So I basically got all the electrical work I paid the builder to do. They screwed it all up. So all this has to be redone. I got to run a new wire from the house. That's a whole thing too. And I'm also going to get rid of these doors because I've hated these things since I've moved here. They're completely useless. I just leave them open because they're such a pain to close. You know, you got they put like these little holes in the ground where you fold the doors in and then you put the little pins in, and then the same thing up here, and then you throw like a piece of wood across, like, you know, some sort of 1800s cabin. It's not a good idea. They sag, they're in the way, you can't walk through, you know, they're just a pain. So I'll be glad to get rid of them. So my entire shop is loaded into this trailer, piled into the carport. All my other equipment is out here. And I've also got a bunch of stuff up in the garage, which Liz is not super thrilled about. What do you think, Gino? Oh, ready for some remodeling? Yeah. Yeah, it's a good boy. That's a big improvement. Just not having these doors stick out here. All right, I got that opened up. I still got a lot more to do, but just taking a break. But I noticed this wall. So the wall, this back wall here of the office, this is load bearing. So these ceiling joists are sitting right on top of that wall. That's what's holding them up. And then see over here, they used like a header or whatever you want to call it to support them. But then here, it's just the wall. So I can't take this wall down until I figure out a way to support the roof. And I can't take the floor joists out until I figure out a way to support the roof because it's all kind of tied in. But I can take the rest of the stuff out. I'll work on getting the flooring out, get as much out as I can and get all this cleaned up, and then we'll go from there. Right, Gino? Always on duty, right? Right, buddy? Always on duty. You're never sure what we're doing, but you're always here, huh? Check this out. You got wood ants right behind the baseboard. All right, there are even more ants than I thought in this wall. They are everywhere. So they'll eat the wood if you give them long enough. They're kind of like termites in that way. They're what you would call a wood destroying organism. Right, Jeannie? Jeannie's a wood destroying organism too, but typically just wood that I don't need chewed and leave it laying around. He'll destroy it, won't you? You're also a boot destroying organism. Yeah, that's a good point. All right, I got all that down. There wasn't any insulation up top other than what the rats had drug up there, so it wasn't too bad. This front wall is also a load-bearing wall, so that's not good news either. So I gotta find a way to brace that and this. Lots of evidence of rats, and we had all them ants. I don't know where they've gone to, probably underneath. But I didn't see any rats, actual like living rats, just old stuff. Oh, look at, these must be the people who built this place. October through December 2002. So that would be 21, almost 22 years ago. That was the dream team, I guess, that engineered this whole project. I'd like to know which one came up with the idea to hang the walls between the two and let them sag. That was a pretty bad idea. Right, guys? Yes? Look, Shep showed up. Where have you been, Shep? Where have you been through all this? Yeah, where'd the shop go, huh? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? It's gone. Like a tornado blew through. Up here, the rats have eaten the wire so much, it's just bare. The hot, the neutral, and the ground, all bare. And I'm pretty sure that that wire is actually running the lights right now. So that's scary. All right, it's kind of rainy today, not much wind, so I'm gonna go ahead and burn this pile. Dogs have friends on the other side of the fence.